Hi, Verbling. My name is Michaela. I'm from Phoenix, Arizona. And today we're talking about Facebook. We'll be discussing our habits and reading an article on a study done about Facebook. If you guys have any comments or questions, you can ask me on Facebook, of course. And I'll put my Facebook name in the chat box over here for you. Trin, welcome to class.
Hi, teacher.
Hey, Trin, how are you?
I'm doing great, teacher. Thank you for asking.
Awesome. We're halfway through the week. Are you already excited for the weekend?
Not really excited.
No?
No.
All right. Well, then let's have some fun in class. I'm going to send you the notes that we're going to be looking at before our article in the chat box. And let's get started by answering some of our warm-up questions. Do you use Facebook, Trin?
Yeah, I use Facebook.
Do you use it every day or every week?
One day, maybe 10 or 20 minutes.
What?
Maybe every day. Some day in the week, maybe 4 5 days.
Every day, all right. So how many hours do you think you spend on Facebook, like, per week?
One day I spend time in Facebook. Not maybe it's about 10 minutes.
Oh, that's not bad. That's pretty reasonable. I am embarrassed to admit that I spend quite a bit of time on Facebook. Probably 30 minutes every day. Sometimes more, sometimes less. But it's definitely per week. It's probably several hours. All right, and Laura, welcome to class.
Hello, everyone.
Good to have you with us, Laura. Tell us, how frequently do you use Facebook?
Who, me?
Mm-hmm.
All the time, every day.
All right, and over, say, a week period, how many hours do you think you spend on Facebook?
Maybe 2 hours per day.
2 hours. Awesome. Okay, so it adds up. It takes a lot of time. I'm in the same boat. I feel like I use Facebook a lot. What do you like to use Facebook for? Do you use the chat or the pictures or your status updates? What's the thing you use most frequently?
Send message by the chat, see pictures by my friend, play with Candy Crush too.
Very popular game.
Yes.
All right, so you do it all on Facebook. There's a lot to do on Facebook. They kind of suck you in, right? You think, oh, I'm just going to check my messages. And then an hour later, you're like, oh, I have to go away now.
Yes.
All right, Trin, what do you like to use on Facebook?
Chatting with my friends.
Nothing.
Chatting with my friends.
Chatting with your friends. Okay. So when you use Facebook, you mostly chat. It's a good way to keep in touch with them. All right. Now, I remember when I was younger and Facebook still didn't exist, and things were really different. Facebook has really changed the social life, especially of people who are younger, like, you know, in high school and in middle school. Facebook has totally changed the way people interact. Trin, can you describe a little bit how Facebook has changed the world and how people interact?
Maybe it helps people have better communicate with chatting.
Could be. So how has it helped people have better communication?
Maybe chatting, social chatting.
Yeah, it's definitely easy to chat with friends from far away, so you can do it more frequently. That's for sure. Laura, what do you think? How has Facebook changed the world and how we interact?
Maybe you can see all information who's pass in the world. You can go in the chat groups with many persons. Before with your SMS, it wasn't possible with just your mobile phone.
Yeah, we can access Facebook from so many different places. Your mobile phone, your computer, anywhere. All right. And sometimes people make an argument that Facebook has also damaged some of the ways we communicate. It's been harmful in certain ways. So we talked a little bit about the benefits of Facebook. Laura, do you think there are any drawbacks or negative effects of Facebook?
If I think what?
Are there any negative effects of Facebook?
Maybe there are people have addiction.
True. Very true. Some people do a little too much Facebook. All right. Alejandro, welcome to class.
Hello. Thank you.
Hey there, good to have you with us. We've been talking about Facebook, so catch us up. Do you use Facebook and how much?
Sometimes I use Facebook.
So in a week, do you think you'd use it like an hour, 4 hours?
Well, it depends. 1 hour, sometimes 2 hours, sometimes none.
So it varies a lot for you. All right. And what do you think are the positives and the negatives of Facebook?
Everyone seems very happy. I don't understand that.
So is that a positive or a negative, that people seem happy?
For me, it's strange. Yeah.
All right. So it does make things a little bit strange sometimes. And that actually relates pretty well to the article we're about to read. There's going to be a lot of self-comparison in this article. Okay. So, do you guys all have the notes open? We're going to go over a few vocabulary words. Ooh, that's in there a lot of times. Before we start reading our article, and I put the notes in the chat box. I'm also going to screen share them for you. So we already answered the warm-up questions above, and now we're going to go down to the vocabulary section. It's a short one, but they could be important words. So the first phrase is psychological cost. What do we think the definition is going to be for the psychological cost?
Psychological cost. When someone take sick.
Okay, what kind of sickness?
Paranoia,
Yes.
stress.
Yeah. Stress, paranoia, these are mental sicknesses. So a psychological cost would be when you're have some kind of sickness from maybe overworking yourself. If you do too much, if you have too much stress, the psychological cost might be depression or something like that. All right. How about moment-to-moment happiness? What is moment-to-moment happiness?
Maybe when you pass a short time in Facebook, you are happy to use this.
Yeah. Good expression. All right. The study authors. What are study authors?
I don't know.
Anybody else? What is a study, first of all? Because we have the verb study, but this is a noun study. What's a study?
Writing.
Yeah, what kind of writing?
Famous writers.
They could be famous writers, but they don't have to be. A study would be a scientific experiment. So in this case, when we say the study authors, what do we mean? Who are the authors?
Scientist.
Yeah, the scientists. So they're the people who put the experiment together and then wrote about the results and the conclusion, and they reported everything. So those are the study authors. Ken, welcome to class.
Yes, thank you. Hello.
So since we're talking about Facebook, will you tell us a little bit about your favorite things about Facebook and why you really like it?
I check the news or information on the Facebook. Sometimes I can get the information which mass media doesn't report.
All right. And what are your least favorite things about Facebook? Are there any things you don't really like about it?
Sometimes weird people something appear on Facebook. Yeah. So now I'm very careful to accept friends on Facebook. Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes that happens where like someone friends you and you're not sure if you know them, and then it turns out they're someone strange. All right. Then we're on to our next vocabulary word, glum. Can anyone define the word glum for us?
Unhappy.
Yeah, unhappy. Kind of like down or depressed, blue.
Something.
What about a proxy?
Proxy.
What is a proxy?
Proxy means proxy server or something.
That's one way we use it. So what would that mean?
I don't know.
Anyone have an idea?
No.
That would be like a substitution for someone else or a stand-in. So someone who's representing another person. You might have, if you're really sick and you can't leave the house, you might have your brother go to the store for you as your proxy. And it's not a very common term in day-to-day usage, but it's common in legal terms. So you might use a proxy to sign something for you or to do something in your place. All right, and the last one is analog. Last vocabulary word.
Opposite digital.
Yeah, the opposite of digital. So give us an example of something that's analog.
Kind of TV, television, or
What was that, Trin?
maybe the television kind of analog television, digital television.
Okay. I'm not sure I've heard it used that way, but I guess that would make sense. What about, I think the most common way to express this would be with watches. You've got analog watches and digital watches. So analog watches are the traditional older kind where they have hands and numbers and they have the arrows that point to which number it is right now, versus digital clocks just have the numbers there and it changes every minute. All right. Any questions about these vocabulary words before we go on to the article?
Can I have another definition with the study authors?
Of course. So, since the study would be a scientific experiment, the study authors are going to be the scientists behind the experiment, the ones who do the experiment. And the study authors, if I used it in a sentence, it would sound like this. The study authors reported that 5 out of 10 people prefer using Colgate toothpaste or something. So it would be the people who do the experiment and report and conclude about their hypothesis. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I see.
We'll see it again in the article, so if you still have questions after that, then you can ask again, and we'll go over it a little more clearly. I put the article in the chat box for you guys, and of course I will screen share as well. Okay, so here's the article, and I'm going to put this in a new tab. All right, here's the article. The topic, or the title, is Facebook makes us sadder and less satisfied, study finds. So before we go into the article, I want to know what you guys think they're going to be talking about. Starting with Ken, will you tell me what you think this article is going to talk about?
Maybe Facebook makes us sad or unhappy. Maybe
Why do you think that would be?
because SNS is based on our, how can I say, show off, showing off our life or something like that. Yeah, maybe, yeah. That's the reason why.
All right.
Probably, yeah.
Good ideas. Laura, what do you think? What do you think they're going to talk about?
I think is negative things with the title.
Mm-hmm. So what possible negative things might they discuss about Facebook? Why would it make us sadder and less satisfied?
We are never satisfied.
Mm-hmm. Could be. Trin, what do you think they might discuss in this article about how Facebook makes us sadder and less satisfied?
I not think so. I think Facebook will make us happy and have satisfied.
Excellent. So you're going to disagree, I guess.
Yeah, I disagree with this sentence.
Well, let's find out what they're talking about then. Let's read a couple paragraphs to give us an introduction. Trin, will you start for us and read these 2 paragraphs that I'm highlighting?
Yeah. Facebook mission to make the world more open and connected. It's a familiar refrain among company leaders, but the latest research shows connecting 1.1 billion users around the world may come at a psychological cost. A new University of Michigan study on college-age adults finds that the more they use Facebook, the worse they feel. The study published in the journal Source PLOS One found Facebook use led to decline in moment-to-moment happiness and overall life satisfaction.
Thank you very much. We already saw a couple of our vocabulary words. Let's read a couple more paragraphs before we stop and discuss. Laura, can you read these for us?
Yes. Here's a huge amount of interest because Facebook is so with
There we go.
okay with the spreads, say research scholar Johnny at University of Michigan Cognitive Neuroscientific, with some things like 500 million people who use Facebook every day, understanding the consequences of this use on our well-being is of critical importance. Researchers tested the variables of happiness and satisfaction in real time on 18 participants. The researchers test messaged them 5 times a day for 2 weeks to examine how Facebook use influence how the left participants respond to questions about loneliness, anxiety, and general emotional well-being.
Thank you very much. All right. So let's talk for a second. We read 4 paragraphs. Do you guys have any questions on the vocabulary used in these paragraphs so far? Awesome. If you guys do think of vocabulary words, you can, of course, write them in the chat box so you don't forget them and then you remember to ask the next time we stop. But let's talk a little bit more about the satisfaction and happiness that we get from Facebook. And let's start with Ken. Can you tell us if you think Facebook has improved your life or not, and why?
I think Facebook is a good tool to keep in touch with the person who live far away from here. I mean abroad, especially abroad, because I can go abroad so often. But in the past, how can I say? Not only abroad, person I met, I just asked their Facebook, and after that I can keep in touch with them. In the past, I asked email address, but sometimes email address changes and changeable. But we can use a message. We can send a message or just click the kind of favorite button. Not favorite. I forgot that name. The button or make a comment. So it's not so forceful.
All right, so you would say that it has improved your life.
In that sense, yes. But this researcher says make us unhappy or something.
So do you agree? Do you think that in some ways it does cause you to be dissatisfied or unhappy?
Probably, maybe every addiction causes us make us unhappy, and if I'm not satisfied with my life, maybe I frequently go into Facebook or maybe probably more. If if I'm busy or if I'm satisfied with something else, maybe I don't go to the Facebook, because mainly I go to the Facebook for killing my time. So
interesting. So you think that maybe people who use Facebook too much or like a lot would be people who are already going to be unhappy. Not necessarily that Facebook is making them unhappy, but people who are really unhappy use Facebook more than people who are happy. Is that what you think?
Probably, yeah. But at least me. I don't know other people's usage of Facebook, but
All right.
I think it should be like that.
Very interesting ideas. Laura, do you think Facebook has improved your life, and how?
Yeah, I think it is very interesting when I change the school. I went in the university, and other friends go in another university. We didn't have time to see them, and with Facebook we can communicate together to have news.
Okay. Is there any way that it has made you less satisfied or unhappy, do you think?
Yes.
How?
Because you can see how is your personal friends.
So you think it's improved, but not necessarily made you satisfied. It's made you more satisfied. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, so it hasn't done anything negative in your life, and that's kind of opposite of what the study says it might be doing. All right. Trin, give us your ideas. Do you think that there's a possibility that Facebook has made you sort of unhappy or unsatisfied in certain ways?
Sorry, teacher, can you write your question in Google chat box?
Yeah, sure. So, has Facebook made you unsatisfied in any part of your life? What do you think, Trin? Has Facebook ever made you unsatisfied with something or ever caused you to be less happy than you might have been otherwise?
I think no. Maybe I use it 10 minutes or 20 minutes per day. I think it not made me unsatisfied or unhappy.
All right. So for the most part, you guys report Facebook being a really positive force. It's kind of interesting that the study found something different. Do you guys have any other comments or questions before we move on?
No.
Okay. Then the next couple paragraphs are for Ken to read.
The study authors did not get at the reasons Facebook made their test subjects feel glum, but Johnidis suspects it may have to do with social comparison. When you are on a site like Facebook, you get lots of people about what people are doing. That sets up social comparison. You maybe feel your life is not as full and rich as those people you see on Facebook, he says.
Thanks. Okay, so we have a phrasal verb here I want to talk about for a second. In the very first sentence, the study authors did not get at the reasons Facebook made their test subjects feel glum. So they did not get at the reason. Could anyone give me a definition for that phrasal verb? Get at?
Understand or find?
Yeah, find would be a pretty good synonym. or maybe even search for. They didn't do either. They didn't find or search for the reasons that it made their test subjects feel glum.
No?
Huh? No, they didn't look for reasons. They just looked for overall moment-to-moment happiness, but not the reasons why. But then it goes on to say that they hypothesize it might be about social comparison. In what ways does Facebook allow us to compare our lives?
Usually people share the happy picture. You know, I went there, I ate this kind of food, or I go to the gorgeous restaurant, or I go abroad, or you know. So compared with that, my life is pretty monotonous, or I don't go there so much. Maybe such kind of comparison made people more sad or lonely or something like that.
Yeah, totally. So we get to compare, but we only compare our whole entire lives with parts of other people's lives, the good parts. So we don't see exactly what's going on, but we think we see everything. What are
Maybe
some other ways?
I said it showing off at the beginning, but maybe people just you know, make other people happy. They share their happy picture, but sometimes that causes opposite reaction.
Yeah.
Probably.
People want to boast, and so they try to make themselves look really cool. Any other ideas? How about Laura? Is there any other ways you think that Facebook makes social comparison really easy?
Yes, I'm agree with the paragraph. I don't have another point.
Okay. I think maybe one way that people can also socially compare is things like number of friends or likes. And we kind of Facebook has bent the word like to mean something totally different than it used to mean. But when you see the number of friends a person has, it might make you feel bad. You might say, oh my gosh, I only have 100 friends, and that person has 400 friends. That person is so much more popular than me. So it puts this number on the number of friends you have and how popular you are. Not to mention if you post your status, if you say like, I'm making lunch right now, and 2 people like your status, you might think, oh, no one cares. No one is looking at my post. No one cares what I'm doing. Or it's possible one could think that. So I think just quantitatively, it might make it easier for, at least for me, I can say like, oh, everyone liked when I said I went to this place, but no one cared when I said I was doing this thing. So it's like, it's an easy way, or it gives you this comparison, which is weird. Trin, have you ever felt that? Have you ever thought, oh my gosh, that person has so many more friends than me, or no one cared that I posted this thing?
No, I don't like that people. Maybe I don't like people who feel that. Maybe maybe I told them why do you care about like?
So you think it's not something people should care about?
Yeah.
True. Very true. All right, Laura, what do you think about that, this comparison? Has it ever happened to you?
No, it's never happened to me.
All right, so you're using all of the happy things of Facebook and avoiding some of the bad ones. What would you say to a person who did get upset by that? Maybe if they got upset because nobody liked their new picture and they thought everyone would like it.
Yeah, I think there are people feel unhappy if nobody make one like.
Mm-hmm.
But It's not obligation.
So what would you say to that person? If that person said, "Oh, I'm so sad, no one liked my new picture," what would you say?
Probably I will make one like.
That's very sweet. Sweet offer. All right. Ken, any other words of wisdom for people out there who get sad when no one likes their picture?
Actually, how can I say? Maybe people who get a lot of like button, maybe they are trying to do that actually. They take a Facebook to do that or made a lot of friends or so. But I'm what I am, so now I just post my kind of interesting article on Facebook. Instead of preserving, how can I say? I forgot the word. Preserving my favorite button. In the past, I preserved the article in the favorite button on the browser, but now I tweet or I Facebook it. I can easily find this article
Interesting.
after that. And
Cool.
if some people interested in that, they click like button. So Facebook is just a tool, so I use my Facebook in my own way.
And you don't let it make you feel bad about yourself. That's good.
Yeah.
All right, let's read a little more. And oops. Oh, new student, Vanathi.
Hi,
Is that how I say it? And did I say your name right, Vanathi?
it's Vanathi.
Vanathi. Welcome
Yes.
to class, Vanathi. Where are you from?
I'm basically from India, but I'm currently working in Singapore.
Very cool. So we're talking about Facebook today. Tell us, why do you use Facebook?
I use Facebook mainly to see what's happening in others' life.
Okay, keep in contact with your friends. Cool. And would you say that it has improved your life, or do you think it's made your life a little less satisfactory?
I think I'll go with the second point. It made my life a bit less satisfactory. I'm not using it these days because I started to feel jealous of my friends, which is not good at all. So I kind of stopped using it.
Excellent. That's exactly what our article today is talking about.
Okay, I'm new to Verbling. I have never been to the site before.
Well, if you have any questions, you're welcome to ask, and you can you can message me directly on my profile, or where is my profile? Or you can message me on Facebook, and my Facebook name is in the Verbling chat. Do you have the chat box open already?
This one?
Yep, that one, exactly. So the very first entry there is my Facebook name, where you can message me any questions, or you can message me on my Verbling profile.
Okay.
All right, so let's get back to our article. Oops, that's not our article. And Vanathi, read the next few paragraphs for us. I'm going to highlight them for you. These two here.
Interestingly, Jonidas notes the study found the effects of Facebook are most pronounced for those who socialize the most in real life. He says the folks who did the most direct face-to-face socializing and used social media were the ones who reported the Facebook-related mood decline. It suggests that when you are engaging in social interactions a lot, you are more aware of what others are doing, and how to pronounce that?
Consequently,
you might be more sensitized about what's happening on Facebook and comparing that to your own life, Jonidas says.
Thank you very much. We'll read a little further before stopping for conversation. And Trin, can you read this next highlighted section?
Okay. The researchers also tested and discovered other reasons for our unhappiness. The University of Michigan also found no evidence for two alternative possible explanations for the finding that Facebook undermines unhappiness. People were not more likely to use Facebook than research had always thought. People were more likely.
I'm going to mute a couple people just because we're getting some background noise and it's getting a little hard to hear. But go ahead and unmute yourself at the top of the screen anytime you want to say something. And Trin, continue.
Also, people were more likely to use Facebook when they were loneliest, and Facebook used bot independently predict how happy participants subsequently felt. Thus, it was not the case that Facebook used served as a proxy for feeling bad or lonely. They need other design tools.
All right. So this covers an idea that Ken mentioned earlier about how maybe people who are unhappy use Facebook when they're unhappy. So that's why it doesn't necessarily make them unhappy, but they use it when they're unhappy. But it says that doesn't seem like it's the case in this study. Do you guys have any questions on the vocabulary before we read a couple more paragraphs? All right, we're almost done. So let's finish up the reading section and then we'll get to more discussion. How about Laura, can you read the next paragraph for us?
We reached out to Facebook for a response, but got an automatic reply. These findings, however, are data point in our quest to understand Facebook and another social media's effect and our emotional well-being, whether it's a BNMO social network's role after relationships end, or our feelings or regret after pressing share.
Thanks. And Ken, read the last paragraph for us.
Okay. If you're feeling bummed, researchers do test for or find a solution. Their prescription for Facebook despair is less Facebook. Researchers found that face-to-face or phone interaction, those outmoded analog ways of communication, had the opposite effect. Direct interactions with other human beings led people to feel better.
Thank you very much. All right. Now we're going to get down to some discussion. Do you guys have any questions on the vocabulary before we do that?
Behemoth.
Good question. See if I can find it again. Here we are. The behemoth social network. Does anyone have a good definition for the word behemoth?
Does it mean big, large?
Yeah, something huge. Big, large are good synonyms. Massive is another good synonym. All right. Any other vocabulary questions?
Well-being.
All right. And which
After
paragraph?
emotional. The secondly paragraph after our emotional well-being.
Ah, there we are. Got it. Okay, well-being. Can anyone help us out with the definition for the term well-being?
Maybe healthy.
Yeah, our
Health.
health. Anything else we could add to that definition? So in this case, we're talking about our emotional health. So kind of like stability might be another good one. Hopefully that answers the question. Any other quick questions before we move to discussion? Awesome. So oops, don't do that. Sorry. So let's summarize a little bit about what we read and what the study covered. Starting with Trin, can you give us one idea from this article for our summarization?
Maybe with my opinion, this paragraph teach we to use to spend time to Facebook less than we do now.
So you think people should spend less time on Facebook?
Less than we do now.
Okay. That is something that they talked about. They said something like, if you have Facebook despair, then use less time on Facebook. That's a good idea. And that was mentioned in the article. Laura, can you give us another idea from the article that can help us summarize what we read?
Can you repeat that?
Yeah, I'd like to summarize the article. So we're going to talk about the ideas that the article covered, some of the facts that it produced. Tell us one thing that you remember from the article, that we read from the article.
The article says that we use probably more Facebook when we are lonely. And say we are unhappy if anyone like our post.
Totally. All right. Ken, would you like to contribute to our summary of this article? What's something you remember from what we read?
Yeah, the article about Facebook calls make us unhappy because sometimes we compare our life to other people's life, and another prospect, the people who are lonely go to Facebook more than maybe such analysis. And to stop Facebook despair, not going to Facebook so frequently.
Yep. Excellent. And next up, Vanathi, is there anything you can add to our summarization of this article? I know you weren't here for the whole thing, but what's something that you remember from what we read?
I remembered about comparing lives, especially with the post that our friends post in their walls, and comparing it with our life and our life conditions.
Yep.
That's right.
All right. So now we're going to talk about the future of Facebook. And I want to know what you guys think, because Facebook has been around for a long time, probably 10 years or so. Maybe more. Yeah, a little more than 10 years, I guess. And I want to know if you guys think that this is a trend and that in 20 years no one will have Facebook anymore, or do you think Facebook is here to stay and that we're always going to be using it in the future for our socialization? And let me start with Vanathi this time. Do you think Facebook is a passing trend that won't be popular anymore in 5 or 10 years? Or do you think that it's a little more permanent and that it's around to stay?
I'm not sure, but one thing I have noticed these days is people are more into WhatsApp than on Facebook. People connect more on WhatsApp and Viber than Facebook. So maybe Facebook popularity may reduce in the upcoming years.
Got
Maybe.
it.
I'm not sure.
It's already on the way out. It's being replaced by these new programs.
Okay.
All right. Trin, what do you think? Do you think Facebook is being replaced?
I think Facebook will stay, and people will use Facebook long time, maybe next 5 or 10 years.
Okay. So it's not going anywhere. Even if we use other stuff, we're going to continue to use Facebook.
Yeah, maybe.
All right. Laura, where do you enter in this argument? Do you think it's already on its way out, or does it have a long time to go?
I think we can use Facebook during another long time, but there are another application like Snapchat, because with Facebook, when we have pictures, the site have the pictures and can make as he wish with our pictures, and not with Snapchat.
Mm-hmm. All right. Thanks, Laura, for your opinions. And Ken, tell us, where do you fall?
Yeah,
What do you think of the future of Facebook?
I think the peak of Facebook is over, has already been over. And because, people are very doubtful about digging information on Facebook. And Facebook continuously forces us to use a real name or to show our careers, or maybe some people dislike it. Maybe that's the reason why Twitter is more popular than Facebook here. Because
Wow.
Twitter forces them out using real name or something like that. And this internet or PC world changes very quickly. So today's winner cannot be today's winner cannot be a tomorrow's winner. Maybe some other idea, or not only social network, but also other kind of thing, and maybe people might shift. But maybe Facebook itself can survive because they can get a huge amount of people in the world. Maybe some people keep using Facebook after this peak.
Got it. So it's already in decline.
Seems like
I
that.
have noticed a similar thing because I don't have a phone. And now every time I meet someone, I'm like, hey, what's your Facebook? People are like, oh, I don't use Facebook, but do you have WhatsApp? And I don't have WhatsApp because I don't have a phone. And so now I'm like, I feel like I'm being left behind because everyone is using Snapchat and WhatsApp, and I don't have those things. And now I feel like I need to get them. All right. Any other comments on Facebook or reviews? Or maybe even questions on Verbling? Vanathi, any other comments or questions?
No, this is my first class actually, so I don't have much.
Well, I'm glad that you got to come into your first class with us. I have another class starting in just a few minutes, and that one we're talking about human rights, and it should be a pretty interesting class. We'll be discussing, of course, plus reading an article and listening to it. Do you guys have any other comments or questions before we finish up in this class? All right.
No.
Then it's been wonderful having you guys. Thank you for coming and sharing your opinions with me. And I hope to see you all again soon. Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.